Welcome to the Financial Rebellion Podcast. I'm your host, Todd Romer. We started this podcast for two specific reasons. Number one, we've been helping thousands of people across the country through the speaking tour and the Financial Rebellion newsletter, how to rebel against traditional financial norms that are not working. We teach money way differently, how to dream differently, how to overcome limiting beliefs about yourself and money, how to save and spend money differently to create less stress and increase that control that you desire. And we teach how to create significant wealth over time by learning more about investing and so much more. Some of our guests come on and show you what their side hustle is about, how they're creating additional income, and even turning those side hustles into legit businesses. And we have other expert guests that are teaching money the Financial Rebellion way, like we do too. The second reason we started the podcast is we're big fans of credit unions. And there are millions of people across the country that are still unsure about what the difference between a credit union and a bank actually is. Well, when you actually manage and do money the Financial Rebellion way, it lines up beautifully with being a member of a credit union. Now, let's get into this episode of Financial Rebellion. Welcome to Financial Rebellion Podcast. This is going to be a fun episode. Why? Because as the intro that you've heard with this Financial Rebellion Podcast, for all the guests that we've been stacking, we are big fans of credit unions. And so why not have someone who is the president and CEO of a credit union talk about credit unions, but also talk about her journey to be the president and CEO of a credit union. How cool is that? So I am excited to welcome Tansley Stearns, who is the president and CEO of Orsa Credit Union in Plymouth, Michigan. Welcome, Tansley.
Thank you so much, Todd. It's an honor to be here with you.
I'm looking to have fun today with 25 minutes. This is what we do. We have all kinds of guests. Some are going to be like, hey, what happened to a 28-year-old or 29-year-old woman, man, entrepreneur that you have on? Well, we cover it all. We cover entrepreneurship. We cover money. We cover, obviously, how to be financially rebellious. And so, Tansley, I'm with the amount of time that we have, I said to you before we hit record, this could be a Joe Rogan 2-hour podcast, but we don't have the time. So before I ask you some questions, because there's so much that, we have had such a interest for over 15 years, and we've had the opportunity to help thousands of tens of thousands, really, 18 to 34-year-olds start behaving and doing money financially rebelliously. And credit unions are a big forefront of that rebellion, if you will, to start doing things differently. And your credit union is quite different. So tell us, first off, what I think you're at 3 or 4 credit unions before you became CEO. Is that right?
Yep, I sure was.
Okay. I even noticed Beth Page, by the way, that's New York based.
Now
So
for leave. Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. That's right. Now for leave. And so tell us about your journey. You were in marketing. And now you're CEO and president. And I love what you said in one of your newsletters that when you got the call from the board, I think it was 2022, that you got the job as CEO, naturally with anybody who's got waiting is always part of life. But you're wondering, will they actually take a marketer and have this person, you, become the president? So walk us through that a little bit, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when I graduated from the University of Michigan, go Blue, I was 21 years old, didn't have a clue what I wanted to do with my future. And I was applying for social work and marketing jobs and stumbled into a small credit union in Metro Detroit. They served Macy's employees. And their headquarters was in the basement of a Macy's store. And my mom and I did the drive together for me to have my interview. The mall where this credit union was headquartered was not thriving. And when we parked the car, she looked at me and put her hand on my knee and said, Tansley, honey, is this a real job? And it was. And I really fell in love with the purpose of credit unions. It was such a gift also to start where I did, because one of my longtime mentors, the CEO there, John Normando, did something that I think is really hard for leaders, which is he surrounded himself with people that were very different than him. I started in marketing. I ran one of our branches and ran marketing. And then the opportunity started to come for me to lead other parts of the organization. And as he was thinking about what he needed, he was really looking for a complement. And I love that lesson. It was also such a gift because I had the opportunity to lead lending there, to lead the call center there, and rounding out those skills and really practicing and being curious about how the organization worked was so critically important. So I started there, was there for 9 years. Then I went to a credit union in Connecticut, and I was there for about 6 years and helped vastly the same functions of the organization. I was their VP of sales and service. And then I went to Bethpage, now Four Leaf, and I led strategy and governance there. And such a gift to really work under a couple of, I believe, some of the most brilliant strategists within our movement. And then I spent 6 years at our industry's think tank called the Feline Research Institute and went all over our great country and beyond, helping credit unions with strategy and their innovation function and governance. And then most recently, I was at Canvas Credit Union in Colorado. And all of that journey was a lot about where your question began, which is my mentors all knew that I really was dreaming of becoming a CEO. They knew I started in marketing, and their advice was, you better go gain some other experience at a lot of other organizations so that a board one day will believe that you're capable of this work. And so that was great advice. It was also really wonderful to see our fine country in all the different ways that I did. And it's also an honor to come home to the great state of Michigan and be able to sit in this dream seat.
It's a fun path and that you've taken over the years. You've been all around, and you said your dream was to be a CEO. That has
Mhm.
been that has happened. You've come back to the state of Michigan. By the way, Ohio State fan, so we're okay here still to keep
Hey,
going.
we're still friends. It's
And
okay.
but so when I looked at, and you're part of Backbone Coalition, which is a coalition
Mhm.
obviously that helps, I think it's 30 plus member credit unions that are just driving awareness of credit
Yes.
unions for
Mhm.
multiple age groups to kind of go, oh, I didn't know a credit union does this. So before I get into those kind of these questions about the younger generation and credit unions, one of the things that I noticed on your website, I'm like, wait a minute, Orsa is like stands out. I'm seeing things like a 10% high yield savings account on your first $1,000. I mean,
Mhm.
that's pretty sweet.
It is.
I love the name of your checking account called Close Enough. That's
Mhm.
ENUFF,
Yep.
where you help with some overdraft, and so it's not a constant struggle. You all just have a dream wild is a tagline. Tell us about your tagline and just kind of what your credit union stands for because it's sticking out, which is kind of cool.
I love that. When I first got here, Todd, I was talking a lot about impossible dreams. And I had one of my colleagues come to me and say, Tansley, you should probably stop talking about impossible dreams because, that really means that those things can't happen. And as a leader, I think we have a responsibility to be hyperbolic and to set the bar really high because wherever we're going to dream and how far we go does set the lid on the organization. In addition to that, Todd, and I know you believe this, everything in our life, the really bright moments and the darker ones, whether it's running into your retirement, owning a home for the first time, or decoupling and separating your life from someone that you once loved, or domestic and sexual violence, or death. All of those have these financial underpinnings that can be really difficult, some of them really joyful. And financial services often focuses very heavily on the joyful ones. And what Orsa really cares deeply about is understanding both of those and ensuring that we are a financial best friend during the bright times and the dark ones. And what I love about the Backbone Coalition is it gives us the opportunity to tell that story about all credit unions. One of my favorite stories from the coalition is really about a dark time that we see across our country, which are natural disasters. In Michigan, last year we had a terrible ice storm in our northern region. people really suffering. The damage was worse than a Category 5 tornado. Now, we tell that story. It's certainly powerful. We're proud of how we stood with Michiganders. And we know that Schools First in California, as well as Redwood during the wildfires, stood with their members, Four Leaf during hurricanes on Long Island. All of these credit unions from across the country really do step in during these darker times. And that's such a rich story. And I think helps to elevate just why credit unions matter so deeply.
True. And then here's the part that is kind of like a challenging question for you
Right.
because
Yes.
I know the major difference between a credit union and a bank. And I've done some videos in social media to talking about the credit union versus bank. And on our newsletter, Financial Rebellion, we talk about the David versus Goliath
Mhm.
kind of setup.
Yep.
And we're keeping that in there because it's true. But we're not anti-bank. There's no CEO of a credit union that I've talked to that's like anti-bank. No one's an anti-bank because every bank has a role in their community. Local community banks are awesome, right? For their similar roles of a credit union. And then some traditional big banks have their roles. There is a lot of Wall Street going on with big banks. Nothing wrong with that, but that's just, and you know that. So, but if I grab the 25-year-old off the street and ask them the difference between a credit union and a bank, such as Bank of America versus a credit union, what would you think they would say? The typical Michigan 25-year-old lady or young man.
Well, this is why we started Backbone, which is I worry they may not know. And that's our responsibility as credit unions. And it's such a magnificent story. When you think about credit unions and when they were founded, our board actually had our offsite last year at the America's Credit Union Museum, which is in New Hampshire. And it's in the home of the very first credit union in our country. And there are stories of the family of the man who started it. He was an attorney and he would cross the river by day and practice law and come home and open their home for people that didn't feel like they had a safe place to put their resources or a place where they could take out a loan for their really important needs during the Great Depression. So credit unions were founded by people coming together. And that's what Backbone is all about is 31 organizations coming together to say, gosh, Americans are feeling pain today. Affordability is a true issue. Credit unions are one of the answers to that. Let's make sure that every 25-year-old knows that they have a financial best friend available to them and that we are easy to use, that we partner with fintechs and have great technology, and that we are there during those really bright and dark moments. And I just love that what credit unions were founded on, which is collaboration, is something that Backbone is bringing to life to ensure that we stand with Americans.
Did you say that there's a credit union hall of fame in New Hampshire?
There's a credit union
That's
museum, credit union museum.
museum.
That
Okay,
uh-huh.
my brain went to museum. I'm thinking of
No.
well, there's the baseball museum. I'm thinking of these. That's I did
Yeah.
not know that. That's pretty
Yes, you
cool.
gotta come visit, Todd. It's amazing.
That's cool. Well,
Yeah.
when there was trouble, right, with people trying to borrow and lend, right, and
Yeah.
receive a loan,
Mhm.
that there were people absolutely shut out, and so
Yep.
I can almost envision in that museum someone's kitchen table. Maybe it's the same one, and you saw it, where someone's like,
Mhm.
"Hey, let's come together. We're going to see,"
Yep.
kind of like it's a Wonderful Life type feel, right? The local community bank feel, like, "Hey, George, suit," which I always cry now when I watch that, and I finally started watching it 5 years ago. How can you get through that movie without crying? If you can't, then there's something problematic. Okay, let's keep going here on the younger demographic because that's really who we are reaching. A lot of people are listening and viewing. We're really honored to see our numbers grow because young people are we know the young 18 to 34-year-old market very well. We got a pretty strong pulse after doing this for 15 plus years.
Mhm.
They are simply trying to get ahead. So many people, Tansley, on the speaking tour are like, I love my parents, but I just want to do money differently than them. So
Mhm.
how can a credit union, Orsa, any credit union, truly beyond the, hey, we're a not-for-profit, you are a member owner, that's great. There's some great things, right? That versus a bank. Lower interest rates on things like car loans. Boy, how many times have you heard that? Yeah, I'm going to go to Orsa because they got a lower auto loan, right? How do you convert those one product only members, i.e., auto loan, to a more engaging, loyal member that says, wait a minute, I didn't know that they have all these products and services, high yield savings, checking, mortgages, even some investment help. I mean, how do you see reaching this market to kind of have them say, wait a minute, why am I with my bank? I'm going to move over. What would it take, you think?
There's two things I would point you to, Ted. The first is really that we know the next generation cares deeply about doing business with organizations who do right by the world. And that's truly what credit unions
Yeah.
were founded on. And so at
Yeah.
Orsa, one of the things we're doing right now is that we have a woman named Laura Killingbeck who is riding across the state of Michigan on our Choose the Bear tour. When I came to Orsa in 2022, we had been partnering with organizations that commit to those impacted by domestic and sexual violence. We know that financial abuse is often a part of how those situations unfold. And we went and listened to survivors. Our subject matter experts really we're seeking to understand what are those deep challenges and how might we marry that with a loan program that would allow those that are impacted to make different choices in their lives should they choose to do so. So we're partnering with Laura Killenbeck. She's riding across the state of Michigan, stopping at some of these organizations and really elevating that story because often economic abuse can be invisible, something we don't see. And that purpose driven work is really what credit unions are all about. So that's one. I think that that matters deeply to the next generation. Secondly,
Does.
I think we've got to start way sooner than when folks are in their 20s because we know that financial habits begin very young. My daughter's 15 years old. And so one of the things that we did here at Orsa is we were the very first financial institution to be on Roblox. Now, I will tell you, I'm not a gamer at all. When we were first testing Roblox, my daughter Mackenzie was playing the game. She ran a car into our branch on Roblox. She's picking up trash in our branch and asking me for more. Todd, none of that makes any sense to me, which tells me that we're onto something because we need to meet the next generation where they are. And while we do want to co-locate and we know that branches do matter, we also know that digital engagement is critical. And so we want to meet people where they are. And we love this idea of connecting with the next generation much sooner and helping them graduate. You know, when we were first starting, my daughter Mackenzie with her green light account here at Orsa, it was all about save, spend, give, make that really easy for her. She's got some chores she needs to do at home. She's got a little bit of allowance. And we want to make sure that she's giving generously, and that's important to her. The other thing that I think is critical and maybe we don't talk a lot about as we think about financial literacy is spending. You know, what we know about changing human behavior is that if it's all about restriction, we're not likely to stick with something really tough. Spending is just as important. We want to save for it and then celebrate those things that we saved for and were able to purchase. So those are some of the things that I think really resonate as we connect the next generation with credit unions.
Okay. Did you just somehow get a hold of my rough draft of my new book out this fall called Financial Rebellion? Because you
Remind
said, I
me.
mean, it was almost verbatim. And one of the chapters is spend money like a rebel. And
Yes,
it is to release the restrictive nature of a traditional budget, which is kicking people's
yes,
butts
yes.
emotionally, mentally, like, oh, I can't have fun. So it's completely opposite. We're teaching them to no, create a keep if you like the word budget, keep it. But so
Yeah,
many people, 80% don't like the word budget, then call it Tansley's monthly battle plan, call it
yeah.
Tansley's monthly spending plan, freedom plan, and have it be a freeing budget, not a restrictive budget. So um, all right. So, well, I have to hide maybe you have the password to my Google Doc, but
No,
no, I
no,
love
no,
what you
no,
said.
no.
That's great. No, that's great. That's right on. It's spot on. And I do love what you're doing with what is her name? The Laura
Laura killing that.
Killingbeck and
Mhm,
yeah,
mhm.
economic and sexual abuse, domestic
Yeah.
abuse, which is certainly real. I've got 3 adult sons. I have a 22-year-old daughter. So I get all that. And she's in a kind of a significant relationship now. So that's
Mhm.
interesting for her dad just to kind of navigate. So
Uh-huh.
it's real.
Yep.
And so you're hitting on some of those. It's feel good. It's feel good stuff. But it's not BS feel good stuff to try and bring someone in as a member that just lasts temporarily. It is a credit union is a feel good place that is meant to have people come into your branch say, hey, you know what? I'm happen to be running behind here on my auto loan. Tell us about some of the members that come in and maybe some stories that people go, well, I'm not leaving Orsa ever based on what I just experienced.
Well, the stories are just remarkable, Todd. And, truly one of the reasons I love Backbone as this coalition is it's this opportunity to hear stories from other credit unions. You can think about that multiplying impact with credit unions all over our
Yeah.
country. One of the things I do, Todd, every week is I reach out to 4 or 5 of our members that have had really good experiences with us. And sometimes when they've given us feedback that we haven't done so well. And, it's everything from somebody having their very first home that they own and a safe place that they can be with the people that they love the most. You think about, we often talk about the products. No one wants a mortgage, no one wants an auto loan. They do want a car to get to and from work. They want a car like my daughter Mackenzie when she's about to turn 16 so that she can go to track practice and have her first job. And start those really important savings habits. I love hearing from our members when in that high yield savings account that you mentioned that they've saved their first $1,000. One of the things that we also have is we call our 52-week savings challenge. So every week for 52 weeks, you save just $1 more. And members that, again, had
Yeah.
never saved before, being able to say, now I've saved this. And to your point, they've purchased something that they were super enthusiastic about and they feel such pride and agency in having done so. And that's our passion here at Orsa is to walk with our members.
You're a champion for them. You're a cheerleader. That's why credit unions have such a remarkable opportunity sitting in front of them. And you know this, but a lot generally are still trying to figure this out that your members are trying to get to a dream. That's what money does anyway, right? It's trying to do something. So what am I trying to accomplish? And as you know this, the financial education in America, it's not anybody's fault. No one's pointing a finger at any organization or school, university, whatever. It's just generally okay. And what we're teaching that's alongside of what you all do is you do have to be financially rebellious and not go along life in a cookie cutter way that we've been told. Generally, the
Uh-huh.
50-30-20 rule. We tell in the book that, wait a minute, no, if you want to save 40% of your income or more in your 20s because you've got two roommates that you want to live with in 20s to reduce expenses, go for it. Dream wild, right? I mean, like your tagline.
Mhm, mhm.
And so then what here's something cool. Maybe you do this, but this is free advice, if you will, and certainly correct me if like you've already doing this. But I can tell you with other credit unions that we work with, Mountain America, I guess are the seventh largest in the country, to
Yep.
Kemba, to Alabama Credit Union, you would be shocked. When we teach them to ditch their savings account, that's kind of like our step two. They go, wait, what? Ditch my savings account? Well, who has one? All the hands go up. Who has a checking account? All the hands go up. They're like, this sounds crazy. Well, right. Well, that's 74%, though, of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So why would I come in here and tell you? Why would we tell you the same money stuff? Start naming your cash with named savings accounts.
Yes. Mhm.
And I tell them you can do this with your credit union. You can set up a second, third, fourth. Literally, all you need is a $5 deposit in that first one, share account, and no minimum balance in the others. And they're like, wait, I can have an account called travel? Uh-huh. With your credit union. And if you happen to go on a trip and your account goes to $60, guess what? You're not dinged a fee from your credit union. Whereas, and they will go nameless, some traditional banks will charge you because you went under $300 in that named savings account. So those are some fun things that we share. Question on investing. This is a big topic of interest of 18 to 34-year-olds. What are you saying to those that are trying to learn about investing? And what's fun, Tansley, is that we have along lines of women in money, and women and economic empowerment. We have about a 45% of our newsletter subscribers are women. And it's so fun to read a room when I see young women's eyes light up. And I tell them based on what I see, because I have a daughter. And if I didn't have a daughter, I'd say the same thing. This is what I say, Tansley. I say, ladies in this room, I want you to know that you can manage and invest money as well, if not better, than any man on the planet. And we've got some fun stories too. Tell me more about investing and members that come to you learn more about investing, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, Todd. What I love to talk about, especially with the next generation as it relates to investing, is start early. Compounding is our friend. Even if you can only do just a little bit, it makes such a big difference later in life. Time is on your side when you are beginning your career. And if you begin that investing, it can make such a big difference. I also really encourage get into that 401k. Frequently, your employer is going to do a match that's free money. Don't ever let that go. And those are the two things that I think are really critical to getting started. The other thing, again, I also encourage us to start even younger. Again, my daughter Mackenzie uses Greenlight. They've got a wonderful way to begin just micro investing. And what I appreciated about your comments about financial literacy is that it is not always as effective as we wish it could be. Our belief here at Orsa is the way to make it as effective as it possibly can be is to have it be experiential. Being able to test and try, saving a bit, investing a bit, spending, giving. The more you're doing that, the more that you've got a kiddo like my Mackenzie who's asking me questions. Mommy, how does this work? What does this mean? She asked me just a few months ago, what's this thing called interest? And it's not that she's going to a class and being lectured. She's experiencing it, and that causes curiosity, which is just natural in human beings. And I think that experiential learning is what really sticks with us in the long term.
Love that she's asking questions. What is interest?
That's right.
And what is investing stock? So this has been fun. I knew we're at 25 minutes. I knew this was going to go fast. At all. Again, I could stay on for an hour or so, but would love to have you on down the road as well, because there's other certainly topics related to money. Love what you guys are doing. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are members, by the way, side hustles that are members, people who are doing side hustles that are members that we're bringing on to help credit unions kind of become the hero. As, hey, come on the Financial Rebellion podcast, and all because you introduced that to them. And it's just another venue, another media asset that we're bringing credit unions to. These people are going to go, why would I ever leave? They just helped me get onto a podcast and a free PR and buzz, because we're in for the win-win situation, triple win, to help younger people break down the barriers of financial status quo and change poverty cycles and replant new financial family trees. And that's what we're doing. And I know credit unions want to do that as well. So there's an aligned mission there.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time, Todd. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
All right, Tansley, thank you for being on the Financial Rebellion podcast. And if people listening in Michigan, how can they shoot out to your website and any handles even for you if you want?
Absolutely.
Social.
OrsaCU.org. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Tansley Stearns.
Awesome. Well, she's got a podcast too, by the way, listeners and viewers, and a great newsletter. I read one issue, and you're a very gifted writer, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
All right, everyone, and we'll see you all in the next episode of Financial Rebellion. Take care and have a great week.